All right, everyone, I got to get started on these beans, so I'm just going to use this pack of beans here. It is 2-pound bag, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some all over the counter and make sure there's like no rocks and stuff like that in there, and then throw them in the colander, and then I'm just going to rinse them out and then put them in the pot with some water. I do this very simple. I know people do different things when they make beans, but I do it the easiest way I could find. And this is the way my mom did it, so there's nothing wrong with it. So yeah, I just put some on there. I could put a lot more. And I think I've done a video on these charro beans before. So a lot of people take out these like little half pieces of beans. There's nothing wrong with them. You can leave them in there. I normally just leave them in there. But yeah, when you've gone through a handful, just throw them in the colander. I usually hang the colander off the countertop and just roll them in there. Scoot them in there. Normally when you get beans in a bag that's already packaged, you normally are not going to find like rocks and dirt and stuff like that. But if you get beans out of a bin where you scoop them out yourself, most likely you'll find some rocks and things like that. Yeah, so I'm not seeing anything. These beans are pretty clean, but I just like to make sure. And it's going to take, depending on what your temperature is, and normally I just throw away like really, I don't know if you could see that. It's a bean that's pretty black and stuff like that. I just throw those away. But the amount of cook time depends on how many beans you're making and how hot you have your stove. I'll probably keep mine from low, between low and medium, more to the lower side because you don't want them to burn. And then that'll take a couple hours. Oh, bean on the floor. Runaway bean. I'm just going to throw it back in here because you're going to rinse these out anyway. No big deal. I remember my mom doing this. We always had beans made in the house. That was probably one of the most common dishes we had in the house was beans, and then made into refried beans. My dad liked to eat them just like a bean soup, you know, just as they're done like that. That's how Glenn likes to eat them as well. My dad and Glenn, they had a lot in common as far as food. They both like hot food. My dad was a spicy food eater. And we always used to say, Glenn and I used to say that yeah, we'd like to see Glenn sit down at a table with my dad and eat some food and see who can eat the hottest food. But yeah, so that was it's still snowing. It's actually almost getting dark, but the snowflakes are kind of big right now. It's really pretty. Okay, I did find one little rock in this bag of beans, so I don't know if you could see that, but yeah, just oop, there it went flying. Just a little rock like that, and sometimes you'll find them. Okay, so I got my pot here, and I rinsed out my beans. Just throw them in there. Oh, another runaway bean. And then you just want to put some water in there that it'll cover all the beans. And just let them cook and check on them occasionally. Stir them up. Make sure the water doesn't get too low. You always want it above the beans. And I don't season these until they're just about done. And then I'll throw some salt in there and whatever seasonings you like. But that's just how I do it. And then once these are done, closer to when these are done, I'll fry up the bacon, cut up the onions and jalapenos and things like that, the chorizo. So I'm going to get these going on the stove. Okay, so if you can see where I have the water level, like right around here, you can see the line there. They're covering the beans and a little bit more. The water will disintegrate as the beans cook, so you just want to make sure that there's plenty of water in there. So I got my burner on about between 2 and 3, which is pretty low. And then I'm just going to cover them and let them cook. Alright everyone, so the pot of beans is almost done. So I have to cut up some bacon now to fry that bacon up and cut up a couple jalapenos. So what I'm going to use in the charro beans is some pork chorizo. And I had part of this I had in the freezer. So that's pork chorizo. You can use whatever brand, whatever. Onion. Some bacon, not all of it, but I am going to use some of it. Jalapenos. I'm going to cut up about 5 slices of jalapenos. Again, to your heat, your taste. And a can of great value diced tomatoes with green chili. I had bought the rotel, but luckily I wrote it in my book that I have my recipes in. Is that I noted that it was great value that went in there, and he liked it. So, all right. So right now I'm going to get the bacon going, and then I'll cut up the onion while the bacon's cooking, and yeah, then we'll get going on these beans. All right, everyone. So the pot of beans is done. So now I want to make the charro mixings before I put the beans in there. Okay. The only difference that I did this time, which I didn't realize, is I made 2 pounds of beans rather than 1. But that's okay because I'm just going to pour in enough for his charro beans without overpowering with beans. So, and then I'm going to leave some in the pot because I'm going to refry some for myself. And just have refried bean tacos. I like that stuff. Alright, so right now, the first thing I'm going to do is turn the heat up again. And I'm going to put the chorizo in. Alright. I'm just going to cook up the chorizo. Then I'm going to add all the other fixings, like the bacon, the onion, and all that stuff. Okay, just to show you what the beans look like. Alright, so you want to make sure you have some juice in there. Okay, so this is it. That's 2 pounds of beans. That's a lot. I don't normally make that much, but that's okay. Whatever I don't refry, I'll just freeze for future dates. And that, you know, it's not like it's a big deal. But the beans for cooking, I had between heat 2 and 3. And it cooked, because I had 2 pounds, it cooked for about 5 hours on 2 to 3. I did have to add water once early on because the water level began to get below the beans, the level of the beans. So I added water, I filled it up, and it pretty much stayed there. And I kept it cover all the while, unless I took some out to test it. So along the way, you want to test for softness of the beans, mix them up, test some more. Salt, I put in salt, but I did not salt it as I normally would, as if it were just going to be a bowl of these beans. So I didn't salt it as much because with the chorizo and the bacon, that's also going to give it salty flavor. So, and it's better, he can add in salt as he wishes. It's better to undersalt than oversalt because you could really kill the meal. And I don't know if you could see, but it is 9 o'clock at night. Yes, I got too late of a start on this. Getting into our night owl schedule has really kind of messed me up for the beans. So Look, I'm trying to work left-handed here. I'm gonna turn this up. And I'm just waiting for the chorizo to break down before I add in anything else. And what I'm just going to use a ladle to scoop the beans with some juice out of there. Okay, so you can see that the chorizo is starting to break down. You can smell it too. I haven't gotten the hang of this left-handed stuff. So my arm and hand will still probably get in the way of the camera. Okay, so now it's broke down, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some bacon. Alright, so this is what I cooked for bacon. Just add it in there. Alright, and this is 1 small onion, and this is about 5 jalapenos, not whole jalapenos, but like I showed you from a jar, slices that you get in a jar, and I just cut them up. I'm just going to add all that in there. Now, I don't eat this, only Glenn does, so this will be enough for him for a couple nights. And a can of diced tomatoes with green chilies. And I just threw everything in there, juice and all. So I'm just going to mix that up. And then you can just start pouring your beans in there. And you grab the ladle. All right. Okay, I'm just going to start pouring some in. And I'm going to turn down my heat right now to about 2, because you don't want everything burning. Yes, I'm making a mess on the stove, but that's okay. Okay, now I'm going to put some juice from the pot of beans. Just grab some juice. Just kind of want to mix stuff up now. Okay, so I'm going to leave it right there. I don't know if you can see that up close. All right, so that's what it looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and let this simmer uncovered for a couple of hours. Okay, and I could even turn this down between 1 and 2. You don't want it on really high. So, yeah, that's all there is to it. And along the way, if I see the juices, the reason I simmer it uncovered is because you don't want your beans to get all mushy. Okay, right now they're at a point where they're done, but they're not too mushy. So you don't want them to get too mushy. So that's why it's uncovered. And along the way, if you see juice is starting to disintegrate, you can take more juice from the pot of beans and put them in there. All right, so right now we're going to leave it at that and let it simmer. Alright everyone, so this is the end of the video. There it is, a bowl of Charro beans. That's Mexican cowboy beans. So I think it was a total cook time of 6 hours between cooking the beans and letting it simmer as with all the mixings in it. So alright, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch it. And with that, remember to live life, be good to yourself, and be good to others. Until next time.